I saw my wife rehearsing how to frame me for abuse, faking bruises and crying in the mirror to steal my house, my business, and my freedom. I didn't say a word. I set up cameras, recorded everything, and let her think she'd already won. In court, she told her lies with tears in her eyes. Until my lawyer hit play. She thought I'd go to jail. She went instead. They say your gut always knows. Mine did. I just didn't listen to it soon enough. It started with little things. Changes in how she spoke to me. The way she'd smile too sweetly, or place a hand on my shoulder like she was rehearsing affection. Too practiced. Too cold underneath. Then came the quiet nights. The moment she thought I was asleep, her phone blowing under the covers. A text here. A laugh there. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it. But I wasn't. That night, I'll never forget it. I woke up around 1 a.m. throat dry, head buzzing. I got out of bed as quietly as I could, trying not to wake her. My plan was simple: get water, go back to bed, keep pretending everything was fine. But when I reached the bathroom, I stopped cold. The door was half closed. The light was on. I could see her reflection in the mirror through the gap, and I saw something I'll never be able to unsee. She was talking to herself. Practicing something. Her expression soft, trembling. "He scares me," she whispered, clutching her arms like she was hugging herself. Then she pointed at an invisible person in the mirror, her voice louder. "He threw the plate. It shattered. He said I was useless. I thought he'd hit me." She paused. Her shoulders relaxed. Then she looked at herself and smiled. Not with pride, no, it was satisfaction. Cold and quiet. I stood frozen, heart pounding. What the hell was this? Was she role-playing? Practicing lines for a play? A therapy session? I didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then she reached for her makeup bag. Foundation. Concealer. A deep brown eyeshadow she dabbed and blended along her jawline. Then the bruise began to take shape. A sickly yellow undertone. A purple bloom. Redness around the edges. She was painting it with the precision of an artist. And then she whispered again. He grabbed me. I begged him to stop. I backed away slowly, careful not to creak the floorboards. I felt sick. Confused. Terrified. I couldn't even process what I had just seen. What was she planning? I returned to bed and lay down stiff as stone. She joined me 10 minutes later, slipping under the covers like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek. "Love you," she whispered. My throat was tight. My heart beat in my ears. "Love you too," I said, and prayed the lie didn't stick in my teeth. But I knew right then my wife was planning something. Something wicked. And I had to find out exactly what it was. So I closed my eyes. And I started making my own plan. That morning, I made coffee with steady hands. I kissed her on the forehead like always. She smiled at me, sleepy and smug, the same smile she wore last night while painting bruises on her jaw. I told her I loved her. I packed her lunch. I even reminded her not to forget her water bottle for yoga. Inside, I was unraveling. I called in sick to work that day. Something I hadn't done in over 2 years. I told my boss I wasn't feeling well. That was true, in its own way. My stomach was in knots, my brain wired, overloaded. I sat in our kitchen, the same kitchen where we celebrated anniversaries and shared wine on Fridays, and I made a decision. I would not confront her. I would not yell, accuse, or even hint at what I knew. Instead, I would play along. Like a fool. Like the man she thought she married. But I'd be watching. I started with research. Surveillance laws, consent laws, what I could and couldn't do legally in our state. I wasn't about to get caught on the wrong side of the line. If I was going to win, I had to be precise. Then I ordered the gear. For small hidden cameras, disguised as USB chargers and smoke detectors. One for the bedroom, one for the living room, one in the hallway light, and one for the kitchen. Each with motion detection and cloud upload. I didn't tell a soul. I waited until she was at yoga or out with her friends to install them. Next came the wearable recorder. Looked like a Fitbit, but inside was a high-quality microphone. Every conversation we had, every dinner, every quiet moment in the car, I captured it all. I became a silent archivist of my own life. She didn't notice a thing. Why would she? In her mind, I was still the dull, oblivious husband. The one too tired after work to see the writing on the wall. Meanwhile, I began noticing everything. How her behavior shifted day to day. How she would sigh loudly when we were near her friends, playing the role of the exhausted wife. How she'd start sentences with, "He's not a bad guy," but loud enough for the neighbors to hear. She left a broken wine glass near the trash once, the stem cracked like it had been thrown. I hadn't touched it. But she left it there, carefully, visibly. I swept it up with a dustpan, bagged the pieces, and stored them in the garage. Labeled the bag with the date. I went deeper. Checked our shared drive. She had created a new Gmail account under her maiden name. Her browsing history showed legal websites, how to file for divorce, documenting domestic abuse, asset division and contested cases. She was laying the foundation, and I watched her do it. The sickest part? She still kissed me every morning. Still curled up next to me on the couch. Still called me babe. It was a performance. And I applauded it. Because she didn't know I was recording everything. One night, I stood in the bathroom in front of the mirror, the same place she rehearsed her lies, and I looked into the lens of the camera I'd hidden behind the vent. "You're going to try to ruin me," I whispered. "But I'm awake now. And I will not lose." Then I smiled. She wanted a show? Fine. Let the cameras roll. It's a strange thing, watching someone fake a version of your life, right in front of you. She thought she was subtle. She thought her sighs, her careful bruises, her whispered conversations would go unnoticed. But I saw it all. And I recorded every moment. She started small, comments made within earshot when her friends were over. Sometimes, he gets angry, she'd say softly, just loud enough. I try not to trigger him, but I never know what might set him off. A pause. I mean, I'm not saying he's dangerous or anything, I don't feel safe sometimes. Every word was a performance. Meant for an audience. Never directly said to me, of course. Just, near me. And always timed when someone else was close by. She built a story one thread at a time. At a dinner party with her sister, she mentioned how clumsy she'd been lately, all while rolling up her sleeve to reveal the faint smudge of purple makeup. Her sister gave me a side eye I hadn't seen before. I smiled and passed the salad. It escalated from there. She started leaving the bathroom door open just enough for me to hear when she was on speakerphone to friends, relatives, even her old college roommate. Always talking about how cold I'd become. How I was obsessed with control. Then came the accidents. She knocked over a lamp and left the shards in the middle of the hallway for me to find. Another time, she slammed a cabinet door and chipped the corner. The next morning, she texted her best friend. "He got mad last night. Things got heated. I don't even want to talk about it." She left the message open on her phone, face up on the counter. Subtle, right? But I didn't bite. I played my role. I brought her coffee in the mornings. Kissed her cheek goodnight. Never raised my voice. Never gave her anything she could use. I wasn't being passive, I was building contrast. I was establishing a documented baseline of calm and kindness. My cameras didn't just show her lying, they showed me being the opposite of what she claimed. That was the key. She started documenting too. I found a folder on our shared drive, cleverly hidden, but not enough. It was titled Home Budget, but inside were staged photos of her bruises, screenshots of our arguments twisted to paint me as hostile, fake journal entries she wrote with timestamps. He screamed at me today. Through my phone. "I'm scared." I told him I needed space, and he slammed the door so hard the picture frame fell. I didn't even flinch. I'm getting used to it. They were fiction. Pure fiction. And I had footage from those exact dates showing me making dinner, folding laundry, or reading on the couch. Silent. Calm. Then came her first real attempt. I overheard her telling her cousin on the phone, "I think I'll file soon. He's got no idea." The best part? He'll have no defense. It'll be his word against mine. I didn't flinch. I didn't storm in and confront her. I went back to my laptop, downloaded the audio from that day, clipped the part where she laughed, "He's so clueless. Honestly, the jury's going to eat this up." And I backed it up to 3 encrypted drives. She thought she was building a trap. But the whole time, I was building an escape hatch and a guillotine. One day, she'd step into it herself. And the blade would drop. It happened on a Thursday. I'd been waiting for it, wondering which day would be the one she'd finally pull the trigger. For weeks, I watched her stitch together the threads of her lie, the photos, the stories, the bruises made of makeup. The late-night whispering, the sudden flinches when I reached for a coffee mug. The build-up was deliberate. Designed. That morning, she was cheerful. A little too cheerful. She made me breakfast, eggs, toast, fresh fruit. Smiled as she poured the orange juice. Said something sweet like, "Let's try to have a good day today, yeah?" I nodded, still half asleep, still pretending. Sounds good. but my gut twisted like a rope. It felt like a last meal. Around 10:15 a.m., I heard the knock. 3 hard raps at the door. Rhythmic. Purposeful. I opened it to find 2 officers standing on our front step. 1 male. 1 female. They asked my name. Confirmed my identity. And then they asked if they could come inside. She stood behind them, just outside the frame, arms crossed over her chest, face pale, lips trembling in perfect dramatic rhythm. No makeup today, just raw, staged vulnerability. Her eyes met mine for a fraction of a second, and in that moment, I saw it. Satisfaction. She thought she'd won. "We're here regarding a domestic violence report," the female officer said. "We'd like to ask you a few questions." "Of course," I said, and stepped back to let them in. They sat me on the couch. She stayed in the kitchen, talking in hushed tones with the male officer. I could hear snippets, he just snapped. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, her voice cracked at just the right moments. Oscar-worthy. The female officer asked me questions. Calmly, but pointed. Had we argued? Had I ever raised my voice? Had I ever gotten physical? No, I said simply. None of that ever happened. She gave me a look that said, "They all say that." Then came the photos. They showed me pictures of the bruises. The broken glass. The fabricated journal entry she had printed out and handed to them. She had gone all in. My heart was pounding. But my face? Still. My voice? Steady. "I understand how this looks," I said. "I'd like to speak with a lawyer." They nodded. I wasn't arrested, but I was temporarily removed from the home while they investigated. I went with them without a word. Calm. Cooperative. Just like the version of me that had been living in those videos. That evening, my lawyer met me at his office. I handed him a flash drive. "What's this?" he asked. "Everything," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "Everything?" I nodded. 2 hours later, we sat in his office, watching video after video. Her applying makeup. Her whispering plans. Her laughing during phone calls, talking about how she was going to ruin me. He didn't say anything until the last clip ended. Then he leaned back in his chair, exhaled, and smiled. She has no idea what's coming. Neither did the police. The next morning, they received our full evidence package, timestamped video footage, synced recordings, audio files of her conversations, metadata reports. And a polite note from my attorney stating we were filing a formal motion to dismiss all allegations and pressing charges for false reporting and attempted fraud. She called me that night. Tears in her voice. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. I almost laughed. "You framed me," I said. "No," she gasped. "You're twisting this. You should have checked the light fixture, babe." Click. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't want to step foot inside that stage again. That place had been a theater for months, maybe longer, and I had been the unknowing actor in a play she wrote for my downfall. Now that the script had flipped, I wanted no part of that set. Let her sit in the silence, waiting for the second act. Let her guess how much I knew, how far I'd taken it. My lawyer, Gregory, was the one who called to tell me the reaction. "They froze," he said. The officers. Flat out didn't know what to say after watching the clips. I pictured it. That smug little frown she wore when she thought she was the smartest person in the room, melting off her face like wax. "They're reviewing everything now," he continued. "But make no mistake. You're not the one under scrutiny anymore." I nodded quietly. We were sitting in his office again, the lights low, the air heavy. He had a manila folder open in front of him labeled simply, "Rebuttal Evidence." Inside were transcripts. Photos. Timeline charts. Legal drafts. She thought she'd built a case. She had no idea we'd been building the counterweight. I didn't go to work. Didn't see friends. I laid low, but I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. For every lie she told, I had the truth timestamped, crystal clear, and backed up on 3 drives, a secure server, and a sealed envelope tucked in my lawyer's safe. Meanwhile, she was unraveling. First came the texts. 11:42 a.m. We need to talk. Please. Just you and me. 3:27 p.m. I don't know what you've done, but you're making this worse. We can still fix this. 7:11 p.m. If you cared about us at all, you wouldn't be doing this. I didn't respond. The following day, Gregory got a call from her attorney. A new one. Apparently the first one had stepped away from the case without explanation. I figured they'd watched the footage. Who wants to represent a woman who got caught monologuing about a false accusation like she was auditioning for a crime drama? The court date was set for the following Monday. 5 days away. Her side was still trying to posture. They hadn't officially withdrawn the claim. Still clinging to the narrative like a lifeboat in a storm. But they were quiet now. No more threats. No more baiting messages. Just waiting. And in those 5 days, I found something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. No more pretending. No more playing the husband she expected me to be. No more tension in my chest when she entered a room. I slept. Really slept, for the first time in months. Woke up in a friend's guest room with sunlight on my face and not a single lie waiting for me downstairs. I even laughed. Real laughter. A show was playing on the TV and I actually laughed at something dumb and slapstick. It hit me like a wave that I was still in there, underneath everything she tried to twist and manipulate. I was still me. And I wasn't done. On the day before the trial, I met with Gregory one last time. We went over the court binder. We practiced questions. He told me I didn't even need to speak if I didn't want to if the evidence was overwhelming. But I told him I would. Because I had something to say. Not just to the court. To her. She made me the villain in her fantasy. Now it was time she met the man she thought she was destroying. And realized he had already won. The courthouse smelled like dust and old paper. Everything felt sterile. Gray floors. Beige walls. Rows of plastic chairs that squeaked if you shifted too hard. But my heart was calm. She walked in 10 minutes late. Perfectly timed, of course. Her hair pulled into a modest bun. Glasses she never wore. A cardigan that made her look smaller than she was. Frail. Harmless. The image of someone who could never hurt a soul. She clutched a tissue like it was a lifeline. The room was full of little gasps when she took the stand. She spoke softly, hesitantly. Paused often. Her voice cracked at just the right places. She painted a picture of emotional torment, loneliness, fear. Of a husband who controlled her every move. Who raised his voice behind closed doors. Who, on one occasion, she thought was going to hit her, but didn't. That last line? Brilliantly manipulative. It gave the illusion of restraint. Made her sound like she wasn't vindictive. Just honest. The jury looked at me after she finished. Some with furrowed brows. Others with polite neutrality. The judge asked if the defense had anything to submit before my testimony. My lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to play a series of audio and video clips. Permission was granted. And then it began. First, the bathroom mirror recording. Her whispering to herself, he grabbed me. I begged him to stop. As she dabbed makeup onto her jaw. Silence in the courtroom. Then the living room footage, her laughing on the phone. He'll never see it coming. He's so damn trusting it's pathetic. More silence. Finally, the smoking gun, her voice, sharp and amused. Once I've got everything, money, the house, he's done. It'll look like his fault. It's all documented. The courtroom didn't gasp. It didn't need to. The silence said everything. Even she froze. Her tissue slipped from her hand. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her attorney asked to pause the video. The judge denied it. We let it play until the end. Every word, every smirk, every confession captured in crystal clear audio and video, all synced with her own timeline. When it ended, my lawyer spoke calmly. All evidence presented was collected in accordance with state surveillance and wiretap laws. We have additional exhibits available upon request. Then the judge turned to me. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Kessler? I stood. Looked straight at her. For months, I thought I was crazy, I said. I thought I was overthinking. Paranoid. But I wasn't. I was watching my wife, someone I loved, create a version of me that didn't exist. One she could weaponize. I looked down at my hands, then back at her. I didn't raise my voice because I knew she wanted me to. I didn't run because I had nothing to hide. I stayed calm because the truth was louder than anything she could say. Her eyes were wide. Hollow. No more tears. No more roll. The judge called for a recess. But everyone knew. The show was over. And the actress had been caught in her own script. The final blow didn't come in the courtroom. It came 20 minutes later, in the hallway outside the judge's chambers. She had retreated there after the video played, escorted by her attorney, face pale, hands shaking. For a moment, I thought she might vanish entirely. Slip through some loophole, declare a mistrial, escape the consequences like she always had. But not this time. My lawyer and I were waiting just outside when the officer approached. A soft murmur spread down the corridor as two more officers followed behind him. One held a clipboard. The other unhooked his cuffs. And when they called her name, I'll never forget her face. She turned slowly, like she thought maybe they meant someone else. Like maybe if she moved carefully enough, the cuffs wouldn't be for her. Ms. Langley, the officer said again, more firmly this time. You're under arrest for falsifying police reports, conspiracy to defraud, and perjury. The tissue she'd been gripping fell from her hand and drifted to the tile like a white flag. I didn't mean, she stammered, but the officer was already reading her rights. People watched. Jurors, clerks, strangers. All the people who had been ready to believe her just hours before now stared as the illusion crumbled. She didn't cry. Not now. Not like in the courtroom. That face was gone. In its place was a hollow, stunned silence. They cuffed her behind her back and walked her down the hall past me. She refused to look at me. But I looked at her. Not with hatred. Not with triumph. Just clarity. Because in that moment, she wasn't my wife. She was a stranger who had tried to destroy my life and failed. Gregory let out a low whistle. Hell of a performance, he muttered. Too bad she forgot the cameras were rolling. I didn't say anything. I just stood there. Still. Breathing in what freedom finally felt like. Over the next few days, the story blew up, locally, at least. Court records went public. Articles were written. Her mugshot made the rounds. A woman who accused her husband of abuse, only for it to be proven a fabrication. She had enemies now. And none of them were me. The house? I sold it. I didn't want the walls, the furniture, the bed where she plotted to ruin me. I left everything behind but my name. The business? Still mine. I had been smart, thank God she was never on the documents, never on the accounts. She tried to seize it in the initial paperwork. Tried to claim it was community property. But she'd never contributed a damn thing. Not to the business. Not to me. And now, she had nothing. Her family stopped returning her calls. Her friends ghosted. The ones who hadn't believed me before? They all saw the tapes. Some even reached out to apologize. I ignored most of them. But I did text her sister back one night when she sent a long, rambling message that ended with, I can't believe she would do that. I replied with one sentence, I can. I changed my number the next day. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the moment she looked up and realized I'd recorded everything. The flicker of terror, of recognition. She'd spent months writing my downfall. And she ended up starring in her own. The best revenge isn't rage. It isn't shouting or slamming doors. It's letting the truth speak for you. And watching the liar run out of words.